I don't think we should get too friendly, Willie.
She's right. Let's have a snack now. We'll get friendly later. You got a cat?
You eat cats?
You can't eat Lucky.
No cat eating. Not in this house.
All right. How about a cat food can? I could use the roughage.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are talking all things ALF, otherwise known as Gordon Shumway.
That's right. Let's not spoil any quiz answers potentially, but we are doing an ALF mixtape. The format of our podcast normally is we pick a trope, be it splitting the room in half, giving birth in an elevator, etc., and we find 4 sitcom episodes that deal with that trope, spanning years and generations sometimes, and then once in a while, when we've covered a certain show a handful of times because of all the different tropes that it's touched upon, we go back and revisit our segments about that show, and that's what we're doing with ALF.
That's right.
What podcasts let's get this right. In which podcasts did we discuss ALF?
We talked about ALF, first of all, when we did puppet-based sitcoms. Remember, that was the episode where we met, what was her name? It was like Madam.
Yes. We did Madam.
Yes.
We did Dinosaurs, and we did that horrible, I think it's gone down in history as one of our worst sitcoms ever. I bet you couldn't for $1 million name the title of that horrible puppet sitcom with Bobcat Goldthwait doing the voice of the bunny.
Yes,
and the
fox
misogynist
one.
father.
Yes, and it was like a cat or something.
He was a bunny.
He was a bunny. All right, whatever. Like cat bunny. It was like a stuffed animal. Oh, what was that called?
It was Unhappily Ever
there
After.
You go.
And we were unhappy about having watched the show. But yes, the first time we covered ALF, of course, was in our puppet-based sitcoms episode. Yes. What else?
We also talked about, and that was the pilot. We watched the pilot.
We watched pilots for all of those shows.
Yeah. And then that was before the Becker rule. Not that most of those shows made it long enough to qualify. We also watched ALF, which I think was one of my favorite episodes of ALF, which was the run-ins with the Mafia.
That was very fun.
Yeah, it was a good one. And then Skydiving. Mm-hmm. That, you know what? That trope didn't turn out. I don't think that trope was as fun as it could have been.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that all the different approaches to the special effect, quote unquote, of the skydive. I feel like there was a lot to.
And we got to see some Herman. So and any episode of Herman's Head with the CEO guy who's insane,
right, Mr. Crawford.
Those are fun. And then finally, Earthquakes, which was another really good episode of ALF.
Yeah, it's just funny looking over these, like, for example, Family Ties, when we did a mixtape on that, the tropes that we had touched on with Family Ties were going to college, school radio station, dating my sister, things like that. With ALF, skydiving, earthquakes, mafia running, like all of the silliest tropes are the ones that come with ALF. I'm sure in all of these segments, we talked about how ALF was sort of a byproduct of sitcoms as a whole, kind of jumping the shark in the 80s and like, let's bring in the aliens, let's bring in the puppets and dinosaurs and whatnot. So yeah, we're going to clip show style replay those segments, but of course it wouldn't be a Sitcom Study mixtape without a little quiz.
That's right.
Now, I don't know, of the two of us, who do you think is the bigger ALF head?
I think it's you.
I would say it's me. I feel like I picked this quiz because it's going to give us all the answers. And so I think this would be a difficult listen for people who are really into ALF, because I think we're big fans of Mr. Shumway in theory, but we don't know a lot of the
it was a show that I definitely watched.
Oh, I watched it.
I don't remember as much.
Yeah.
And I think based on the tropes, like what you were just kind of pointing out, that it was always a little bit ridiculous. Like the reason to watch ALF was because ALF, the writers were the writers for that were made funny jokes for him.
Well, and as
he
we've
was
discovered,
fun.
the dad,
And
the guy
the
who played
dad,
the dad, was like the most amazing sitcom actor to ever grace
We
the
didn't know that at the
hallowed
time.
boards.
We were little kids. I watched it for ALF.
I say, yeah, you can ask me the questions, but, we'll sort of approach it as a team if
Understood.
we don't.
Are you ready for the super hard question?
Yes.
What does ALF stand for?
Right. And of course, this is going to provide choices, but we don't need those. ALF, every schoolboy knows, was alien life form.
That's correct.
Not a loving friend or a lame front.
No. All right. Oh, absolutely right. ALF is an alien. Paul Fusco voiced ALF for 34 episodes.
These are the kind of fun facts we need.
When ALF made appearances, he was sometimes credited as Gordon Shumway, but Paul remained his voice.
That was basically my other biological fact I had in the can, was the Shumway thing. All right, go ahead.
All right. What planet did ALF come from?
Melmac, that's easy. Don't waste
Yes.
my time.
Don't waste my time. The other choices were Saturn and Mars.
Anyone can figure out the one planet that isn't real.
This one says right on the money. The name Melmac is an inside joke referencing dinnerware from the 1950s. That I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Why did ALF come to Earth?
Okay, so here's where it's starting to already get a little more challenging. We remember, of course, we watched the pilot where he sort of crash lands in their garage, and Willie is the sort of like a science enthusiast and is all like intrigued by it. All right, give me the choices.
I'm surprised you need choices for this. I had this one in the can. Okay, so the choices are he wanted to see what humans do, to gather up DNA from a science lab, or his planet blew up.
Oh, yeah, of course. His planet blew up.
Yeah,
he's like
it's
Superman.
the Superman story. Exactly.
Yes, he's a refugee of an exploded planet. Okay.
And they have a nice little picture here of his parents in the spaceship. Right. All right. No fun fact with this one. All right. What is Alf's girlfriend's name?
Oh, God. Okay, see, this is where I'm sure there was a time when I knew such basic facts as Alf's girlfriend.
When did Alf? What season did Alf have a girlfriend?
As we've mentioned, we've watched Alf 4 times for the podcast. There has been no mention of a love life of any kind.
Well, but we've had 2 episodes from season 1, 2 episodes from season 3. The show did run like 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, my constant criticism of Alf is that like the alien logic is all over the place in terms of like, he'll make a reference to like, oh God, that's something that Ross Perot would say, and then he doesn't
like,
know,
how do you know American
like
politics?
what an apple is or something.
Right.
So the whole idea of him having like romantic ties. What are the choices?
The choices are Rhonda, Pearl, and Jackie.
Rhonda sounds very familiar.
All right, let's go with Rhonda, and you are correct.
Yeah.
Lisa Buckley played Rhonda. She was also off camera for more than 20 episodes as Alf's assistant.
All right. Okay, we will continue with the quiz shortly. What you're going to hear now is the first time we ever talked about Alf. This was from our puppet-based sitcom episodes.
That's
like
right.
we said, we were talking about the pilot episodes of Madam and Dinosaurs and Unhappily Ever After, and this was our first run-in with Alf. Okay, moving on to Alf.
This time I don't have an episode to share with you.
Yeah, in season 1, episode 1. Were you an Alf kid?
Yes.
Yeah, we all were, right? We all bought into the Alf craze.
This was like right in that sweet spot. 1986. I thought this show was so funny. And this show got in trouble, right? Because so many kids got into it, but yet they still sort of, especially the first 2 seasons, were trying to make all these kind of racy jokes and have, Alf was a little bit wild anyway. But yeah, and there was all sorts of like drama with the show that I forgot about. But then when I was reading about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember, this was during that time where it was like, I guess it was a little before, like, the rappers are all bad and the TV shows are all bad. But this is kind of the same thing. It was like, some kid wanted to put a hair dryer or a toaster.
Well, yeah, you had a kid try to eat his cat because Alf eats cats. You had, they did something about not a hair dryer, but some kind of electrical appliance in a bathtub, which was from an Amnesia episode, funnily enough. Alf gets amnesia because he gets electrocuted. And a kid tried to replicate the thing that injures the character in the show. But there were multiple things like that, including one fatality at least. And none of these were your usual things. It wasn't like Alf, says a curse word or something. They were bizarre, jokes or like bizarre picadillos that he had that led to these mishaps.
And so I guess some kids did it. And then that's when the show already was kind of harrowing. So unlike what we saw in Madam's Place, where they're filming in front of a live studio audience and it's, kind of a fun production that they're putting on for that live audience, this was not. And this was unlike other episodes and unlike the whole Jim Henson world, where a single 20-minute episode would take 25 hours to film, and it was happening in super hot studio in these very dangerous conditions because of all the trap doors and stuff that you're seeing. And it had to do a lot with the puppeteer who played Alf, Paul Fusco, I think is his name. And he didn't want to rehearse, and he refused to have Alf be seen as a puppet. So he had to be completely hidden at all times, even from the crew, even though he's the creator of the show.
He's a method puppeteer.
Right. And so it caused some issues for the entire production.
Okay. So you're saying that this show wasn't filmed before an audience, but it does very much have the look and the language of a multi-camera sort of old-timey sitcom. So you're saying they filmed it with that same sort of setup, but it was done with all this added crap that they had to do because of Alf.
Right. And then they would add a laugh track.
Right. So if you're not familiar, the basic premise is Alf is an alien life form, right? And it's a family sitcom plus Alf, right? This is your down the middle, what if a normal family had an alien? Just kind of like a funny version of E.T., but he didn't go home. He just stayed on Earth, and he talks fluent English, and his name is actually Gordon Shumway, and he's just referred to as Alf. So, this show obviously has a very particular sensibility. I don't know what to make of that tone that it's trying to strike, where it's like they're incredulous that he's an alien, but nobody really remarks about how he speaks English and, knows what, he's able to make these jokes about things and stuff. Like, part of me thinks that is stupid. Part of me kind of likes the absurdist mentality that goes into that. You understand how this ended up as kind of a punchline, kind of like hey, remember Alf? Wasn't that weird? Like, that's the sort of cultural take on Alf now, right?
Is it? I feel like, and it might just be our age, but I feel like everybody is kind of, Alf is funny. Like, Alf, it's a good show.
Like it.
Isn't it being, I think Ryan Reynolds is bringing it back on his, like, weird channel that he has now.
I feel like they've talked about Alf reboots for many years. I had a friend that was in, like, a small underground comedy sketch group that did, like, a Alf reboot, quote unquote, show, but it was obviously just their own little funny thing. But they got a cease and desist from the rights owners of Alf.
Well, and so that the reason that Alf didn't continue beyond its whatever NBC or whatever channel it was on beyond that run is because the guy who puppets Alf is completely territorial over the rights to it. So there was some, the reason ALF was canceled was that there was some sort of provision put into all new, production contracts that was whatever sort of characters or something that were created were then property of NBC and not property of the creators of the show. And that was when Paul Fusco was like, that's it. ALF is canceled because I'm not signing over my character to NBC. And same thing prior to ALF being on this network, there was a little bit of like Lorimer was bidding and Disney was bidding, and Disney wanted it to be Walt Disney's ALF. And he said, nope, it's Paul Fusco's ALF, but he's mine. You can't have him. And so there's a lot of the things, I think a lot of the reasons we don't see more ALF today is because it is sort of a one-way street to him through this one guy.
No, well, I can respect that. But yeah, I feel like ALF remains just, to me, this symbol of the 80s excess, like not financial excess, but like creative excess. That the way that we talk about sitcoms sort of jumping the shark in general, just, the way that things got so silly for a while, I think of ALF as, a sort of quintessential example of that. But so this episode is a pretty straightforward origin story. We get a cold open where the dad is an astronomer or some sort of like amateur scientist who's like making contact with aliens with all his like sort of makeshift Radio Shack gear, with the wife, like the two of them. And
no, just him. She's coming in, like she comes into the garage like, can we please go to bed? And he's like, hold on, I got a lock on something. I mean, we dive into the middle of a thing in this pilot in such a way that I had like whiplash. I was like, wait a minute, why does the mom hate ALF from like jump? Like before he even lands, she's like, I'm not gonna like this. And like the whole, like she's angry for no reason. The dad is like this weird, like science nerd, but apparently has no other job except for there's no way he's just working out of the house. Like what's going on? I don't remember what his other job is. And do you remember, was all of this like stuff about his home planet exploding and there nobody being, is that a ruse? Because it was all a little too convenient, and with as sarcastic and everything that ALF is, I am like, didn't we find out later on in the season that he was like an escaped convict and he was running away from something?
I don't remember all the details, but I'm pretty sure the thing about his planet blowing up is true. I think they're doing that so that you don't have the E.T. thing of like, well, let's get him back home. That's his ultimate goal. You have this thing of like, he's an orphan now. He's a loner. He has nowhere else to go. Let's make him part of our family.
Right. I saw them playing that up, but there was just something about the way ALF is, the way he always has like, he's always doing naughty things. If you took Garfield and then made him a little, dirtier, like that would be ALF. He's just always doing naughty things. Rouser. And I just kind of felt like, well, I think this is a lie. This is all too convenient. And then he goes and he's using the microphone to try to like maybe connect with, James and Susan and all these other, Melmacians that maybe escaped, but he doesn't know. And it's like he doesn't know the family's all standing behind him watching. I just was like, this is gotta be a lie. Like I'm waiting for act 2 of this where it turns out that ALF is, running away and he stole this spaceship and he's using this ruse so that the family doesn't try to send him home because he can't go back. I'm like, I have a whole other story written.
I think him being overheard by the family was just sitcom-y crap, is just them eavesdropping and just your usual, he's saying what he feels in his heart and he doesn't know that they're listening, so he's going to be honest, but then they conveniently hear it. I think
the whole family and the dad's like, shh,
yes, it's very silly. I think you may be right that there's more to his story than he's saying, but I think the basic broad strokes that his planet is blown up and that, he's kind of a, rapscallion, but he's basically a good guy. I think all of that is more or less true. we could watch more episodes and find out, I guess. But what you said that is very true is this dynamic of the mom being like kind of a bummer, kind of like a sort of authority figure that's like, you know, why are we going to have an alien around? We're going to get in trouble. Why are you always messing with your science stuff in the first place? And we are very much supposed to be on the side of Willie, the dad, as this kind of funny, sort of flustered old dad. You know, like you said, he's a nerd. And so the dynamic is going to be like, oh, Alf, you got me in trouble again, you know, and it's like, you're going to get me in trouble with the wife, and what do we do?
Which we don't see any of that in this episode. There's, we don't have that dynamic yet of like really Willie and Alf kind of going at it. And I remember that from when I was watching. This is such a pilot. It's like Alf is getting his moment to sort of interact with each one of the characters. And so we don't have that great dynamic yet. And we get one good scene though, because the guy who plays the dad, is it Max, right?
Right.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So there was at least a couple of scenes at the sort of beginning of the episode where you could really see his chops. Like I was like, man, that is a good actor. That was good. And then towards the end, when we're getting that like overbroad, everybody be quiet, we're gonna go sneak in and listen to Alf kind of stuff, I was like, okay, well that's not so good.
Yeah, no, he's got, in addition to being a really good actor, he's, you know, from the stage and everything, he's also just got a very interesting voice and manner about him. So if the crux of his role is going to be exasperation, he nails that in a way that is just different. Like he's just got a different sort of take on it than other actors do. And I think he's a sort of big part of it. Let's talk for a second about the Alf design, because I think this is something that is a strength of the show, whereas Madam, you know, like I said, was kind of hard and you got the sense like you would hurt yourself if you touched her. Alf is this big ball of fur, and there's just something about the furriness that makes him immediately like, oh, it would be nice to touch him. Like you kind of want to hug him. Like he looks nice and fluffy. And then he's got these big black eyes that are very shiny that also, they sort of look like a real animal's eyes in the way they're able to, like he just looks very sort of organic and lifelike, even though he's clearly a puppet.
Yeah, and of all of the puppets that we're going to see in every episode, even the Jim Henson ones, he has the most expressive face. He is able to get across what he's saying. He's able to react during scenes like an actual actor. He is able to, because he's got a nose that kind of looks like a croissant. And so the puppeteer is able to like kind of suck the nose in, you know, and like turn it to the side and do all sorts of things. Like he is the most expressive, I think.
Yeah, he's the same basic kind of puppet that Cookie Monster or Fozzie Bear is, right? Where the puppeteer is doing the mouth and the head with one hand, and then another hand is doing one of the puppet's hands. So he can have a real hand that he can gesture with and pick things up with, unlike Madam, who, like you said, is more like a Kermit the Frog deal with hands on rods. So yeah.
And then you also have a secondary puppeteer that does the other hand.
Right. Now, what we just described is Alf for about 90% of the time, but then they cut to full body shots. And again, they would do this with certain puppets in the Jim Henson world, but they kind of phased it out because it looked so conspicuous. They would cut to a child or a small person running around in a full body Alf suit. And it just always looks so weird. The dimensions and proportions of his body are completely different. And it looks like a little kid dressed like Alf.
Yeah, and it's always a little jarring, and then you see him like scurry to the back of the set at one point and like climb up on a bench to look out a window, and it's so off-putting, like
yeah, because he just moves so differently. You're normally used to seeing something that's completely stationary, where all of the movement is in the top of him, and he's completely cemented on his bottom half. And then, like you said, the word scurry perfectly describes it. When you switch over to these full body shots, it is just this little person scampering around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get this origin story. The family's kind of going back and forth. What do we do about Alf? He seems kind of fun and we kind of like him. He's winning us all over one by one. Like you said, he has scenes with the individual characters. He wants to eat our cat. That's one of his funny quirks, but we convinced him not to.
He's obsessed with cats the way Garfield is obsessed with lasagna. I think that's such a funny parallel. But before we go forward, we need to talk about how he gets his name Alf in this episode, because I forgot it, and it made me laugh out loud.
Okay.
Right? Because the little boy, right, there's two kids, there's like a teenage girl and like an elementary school boy, and he goes, "It's an alien," and the dad goes, "It's an Alf. An alien life form, ALF." And I just was like, that's how he gets his name. It was so dumb. It made me laugh.
But even see what you just said imbues it with more significance than the way the character says it. Because I noticed this too. He throws out the term Alf.
As though it's something everyone knows.
As though he was saying car. You know, He just goes, it looks like it's an Alf. And then moments later, they reference E.T., right?
Yeah.
There's something everyone's heard of. Now, granted, I understand why you can't call your show E.T., but it's like E.T. or extraterrestrial is something that a human person has said at one point. Nobody has heard the phrase Alf outside of the sitcom Alf before or since.
Right. Yeah. So they got a letter from Steven Spielberg once this show was greenlit or whatever, and it was like, does this have anything to do, or does your character look anything like E.T.?
Yeah, well, and I think they did a good job of distinguishing it. Look, it makes perfect sense if you consider it a loose parody of E.T. If you say, oh, E.T., the movie, extraterrestrial, okay, our thing will be Alf, alien life form.
Right.
Like, in that sense,
we're not going to try to send him home. His planet's destroyed. We're going to try and keep him here.
Right. In that sense, it's perfect. But it is just so funny the way the dad tosses out that phrase as though it's like, oh, you don't know what an Alf is? Oh, okay, sorry, let me explain it.
And then the nosy neighbor sees this like furry thing in the bathroom window and calls and to report it, and then we get another very strange scene with some military guy who has shown up
he's
at
from
their
the
door.
Alien Task Force,
right.
He explains. Yeah, the government's alien task force. Yeah, the mom is basically put on the spot and has to decide whether or not she's going to give up Alf, right? The whole episode, he has had a sort of what I called a what about Bob-esque relationship to the family. Like, he's weird and wacky, and he's constantly trying the dad's patience, but by this point, they've all kind of grown.
The mom's patience, not the dad's yet.
Yeah, well, the mom always didn't like him, or rather, the mom was just always sort of skeptical of the situation. She's supposed to be the voice of reason, like, we're going to get in trouble. This is a bad idea. And the dad is supposed to represent, like, he's a scientist. He's brimming with curiosity. So, of course, how can he, give up the chance to be friends with an alien? So the agent has this hilarious list of procedures.
That's what I was going to say. He tells them everything that he might do to...
Yeah, he goes, well, what are we going to do to the alien? Well, first of all, the mom doesn't want to say that they have an alien, but she's like, hypothetically, if we did... what would you do to him? And he's like, well, it would be the standard battery of procedures. It would be electrocution, inoculation, sleep deprivation. He just goes down.
It was horrible.
Yes. And he goes, inoculation. That means needles, because they had talked about that earlier, whether or not he'll get jabbed with needles. But yeah, so the mom decides, get lost. We ain't seen no aliens here. And then we get the scene, like you said, where Alf kind of goes out to the shed or whatever and tries to, contact, again, a sort of E.T. reference, you could say, sort of making his own little makeshift thing to contact his fellow aliens, his fellow Melmacians. And that's where he sort of has this kind of, well, since no one's listening, let me get real. I met this family and they're really nice and the kids are great and
it was very much like, I'm saying all of this because they're right behind me.
Yeah, because the family has come in and seen him, but he doesn't see them. And so, it ends on this note of like, well, it's going to be weird, but maybe we can all be a family.
Yeah, they are trying to pull at the heartstrings. They're really, trying to make you be like, oh, this character, Alf, is like, he's got a heart and that's so great. This family needs to keep him. And we had the lingering question, though, is the mom, when they're at the dinner table, she goes, what are we going to do next week when the older daughter has her sleepover party?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, we won't worry about it. And then Alf goes back to telling a funny story.
And that is one example of the various sitcom stories that they're going to have to come. So that's Alf. Moving on to dinosaurs. Okay, that was our Alf segment from our puppet-based Sitcoms podcast. We're about to get into the Run-Ins with the Mafia podcast. But first, hit me with a few more trivia questions.
All right, some Alf questions. What is the last name of the family Alf lived with?
That is the Tanners. That I remember
yes.
well. I remember thinking as a child, the boy's name is Brian. And I remember thinking Brian Tanner would be a good name.
Well, that is kind of a good name. Yeah. I always thought it was so interesting that you had, these were the Tanners, but you also had the Full House Tanners.
Yeah, what's up with that? And they were like the same time.
I know.
Yeah, how strange.
I know. They were on different networks,
but still, like, why did nobody like just raise their hand and say, "Hey, they're the Tanners. Why don't we be
somebody else?" So it says this fun fact is the Tanners kept Alf hidden from the people in the outside world because he was an alien, except for a few people.
Right, except for their spunky neighbor kid.
Right, who disappeared after a few episodes. Yeah. All right, which of these is one of the people that lived in the Tanner's house? Let's see. Let's get some answers here. We've got Sarah, Kate, and Mark.
Okay, so just random first names with no context whatsoever. Am I saying who did or didn't?
Who did live there?
I'll say Sarah.
No, Kate was the mom.
Oh, I didn't realize that we were just saying which one of these names is one of their names. I thought it was like who was a special guest. Yes, the mom was Kate, who, as we talked about in some of our segments, was for a while in the running for worst hair in the sitcom
Oh, yes, and
world.
Definitely in the picture that they have in the screenshot here.
Yeah, we get into
hair.
the whole bangs mullet combo thing that she's got going on.
Yes.
All right, what else?
All right, here we go. What is the name of the cat that Alf always tries to eat?
Right, okay. That one, what was the cat's name? Lucky.
Ooh, nice. That is one of the choices. The other choices are Mrs. Norris from Harry Potter, and Salem from Sabrina.
Of course. Yeah.
Alf would do anything to eat Lucky, but if he did, the Tanners would make him leave. And then they tell us who the other two faux
we're
answers
familiar
were.
with the
We know who they are. On the Alf TV show, what does Willie do for a living?
Ooh, well, like we mentioned, he's definitely like a science enthusiast and tinkerer and stuff like that. Is that his job? I'm going to say he's like I'm going to say he's like a hardware store salesman.
So he's Tim the Toolman Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay,
but
here are your
Okay.
choices. Yes, here are your choices. Social worker, doctor, or dentist.
Jesus, none of those sound right. I don't think he's a social worker. I guess he's a dentist.
I thought dentist too, but I also couldn't have pulled that out of thin air. He was a social worker. Wow. Willie sure likes to help people.
Yeah, he does not come across as a people person in the show.
No, but he always is the one that's trying to like give Alf the benefit of the doubt and will have
he's a nice guy.
But he'll have really like heartfelt conversations, and he does know how to, express his feelings. So there definitely are moments where I could see that would be true.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So now let's dive into our Run-Ins with the Mafia episode.
Run-Ins with the Mafia. Yes, this is where we watched Bosom Buddies. They had a client that they thought, or like who was some Mafia Don.
Yes.
This was the head of the class one. Everybody hates Chris. Yes, this was a good lineup.
Oh, right. The head of the class one was the one where it was like everyone kept assuming they were in the Mafia.
They got hired to film an Italian wedding.
Right.
And then they erased the tape, and they were like, now we're going to get bumped off. Yes.
Right.
Lots of the cultural stereotypes running wild.
But that was the only one where they addressed it.
That's true. That's true. Alf did not get into the nuances of our Italian-American representation.
That one was more different, right? Because that was the talkative
the guy who couldn't keep a secret.
Right, who was in the witness protection program.
Yeah, a lot going on. You're about to hear all about it in this segment from our Run-Ins with the Mafia podcast.
Here we go.
There we go. Moving on to Alf.
Season 3, Episode 13, Hideaway.
Yeah, so we've talked about Alf once before in our Puppets episode. We covered the pilot episode. I mean, Alf is what it is, right? It's sort of, to me, it symbolizes exactly the thing I was talking about before. The gimmicky, silly nature of sitcoms in the 80s, the way the whole art form sort of jumped the shark a little bit at that time. And so, love it or hate it, Alf just sort of embodies that sort of creative excess and ridiculousness. And so just like you said, to be combining that with the mobster thing is just like, yes, a lot of tropey, sitcom-y stupidity.
Yes, but they don't go straight for the, oh no, we've had a run-in with the mob in this one in the way that they do in a lot of the movies you mentioned, or even in the Bosom Buddies episode that we just watched. In this, the run-in with the mob happens via an annoying coworker.
Yeah.
So Willie, the dad, he has this guy at work who just won't shut up. He just talks and talks and talks. And every night this week, he's been late coming home for dinner, and the family's been waiting and holding dinner for Willie because he's stuck at work with this guy yammering his ear off and he just can't get away. And so that's how we're introduced to the character. And then we see the character later on, and he is just that. He's one of these guys who just can't stop talking. Well, it turns out he's looking for friends because he, in his life, is in a very precarious position. He has been relocated by the Witness Protection Program.
Yeah, the Witness Protection Program was also a big, concept in all this stuff. If you've seen My Blue Heaven, the great Nora Ephron movie with Steve Martin and Rick Moranis, that's all about life in the Witness Protection Program. So, yeah, I think we as a society are very sort of attuned to this. So, yeah, this Jim guy, like you said, is very loquacious. He talks your ear off. That's his whole thing. I just want to say, I'm sure we said the same exact thing the first time we talked about Alf. This guy who plays the dad, Willie, he's just such an amazing
he's
sitcom
such a good actor.
Presence. He's just one of those guys. The way he decides to say things is so funny. At that first scene, the cold open, Alf has bought something. I don't even remember what, but just the way that Willie goes, did you say absolutely no refunds? It's such a dumb, random line. And the way he says absolutely no refunds, like it just has you on the floor. He is so funny. And you see how at this point in the show, season 3, the kids are like, yeah, get him in here for an obligatory scene here or there, you know. the way we watch all these shows evolve, like Urkel doesn't exist in episode 1 and he's taken over the show. Here's one where they decided to make this a dad show more than anything else because the dad has the goods.
Yeah, the dad and Alf, the interactions are so funny. I remember being annoyed in that pilot episode because they just like hated the mom for no reason from the very beginning. And we still get that, right? Like Alf is still very much like, hey, let's throw Kate to the, to the FBI or the Mafia or whoever. He's very much like, well, let's get rid of this wifey. He doesn't like her. Yeah. And she's annoying and she always tells him no. But so does the dad. But like he also likes Alf. So anyway, yeah, it's hilarious. Every time the actor Max Wright decides to like have a feeling, you see it kind of bubble up. He's like this anxious little man and it just like bubbles up from within inside him and he's just like, no.
Yeah, no, it's the combination of all of his talent and intelligence, but it's also just his natural presence, just the sound of his voice, what he looks like. It's just a perfect combination. The other thing I just wanted to throw out about Alf, the theme music for Alf is such generic, innocuous, saxy pop music that I actually think it's one of the inspirations for our theme music for the sitcom study. Generic royalty-free track that I grabbed off of whatever site that's meant to evoke this sort of universal 80s, early 90s goofy sitcom song. I think the Alf music is one of the main inspirations for that.
I dig it. So, all right. So in this episode now we have, we've met Jim, who wants to be called Jimbo. And every time you ask him any personal question, he recites this very specific backstory. I went to high school here. I did this. My hobbies are this and this. I enjoy that. Like it's like, he's reading his little dossier.
Yeah. He enjoys watching filibusters on C-SPAN. I thought that was kind of a funny touch, especially I feel like 80s, early 90s, the average person wasn't as familiar with the concept of the filibuster as they are now. So I thought that was kind of a fun
Or
joke.
C-SPAN.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also need to take a moment and just talk about this guy, right? Todd Sussman. You have seen him in something. This man is like he is the sitcom study. You look at his IMDb, he's done one episode of every single sitcom that we would ever want to cover.
Yeah, this lineup in general, more than any of our other shows, really started me thinking like, there was basically like 50 or 60 people just floating around being in all these sitcoms, right? Now, part of it is the fact that we covered several shows that are all in the same time period.
Sure.
But just watching each one of them, I mean, the one we just talked about, Bosom Buddies, is entirely assembled from the spare parts of other shows and movies and stuff from that time. And then, just going to Head of the Class and seeing, Ms. Mira, we saw her in half a dozen other sitcoms we covered. It is funny to see, like these, this was the working LA actors of the 80s, 90s, like there's only so many of them, and the ones that are good do just you see him again and again.
Again and again and again. So like Todd Sussman, nothing, like no big starring vehicle, but he has been in everything. He also had a little arc on Newhart where he played like a sheriff or one of the cops or something. And he had like 10 episodes of Newhart, but everything else is like 1 episode, 2 episodes, 1 episode, and literally every sitcom.
Yeah, no, his page goes on. And he's this guy, he's a rumpled suit, he's this guy that looks like this white collar, middle-aged guy, but he looks like someone you see at the airport at 2 a.m. or something. This is my nightmare. This whole scenario of this guy coming over, it starts with
won't stop talking to you and let you out of the conversation.
Yeah, and also just won't take a hint about like parting company. This starts with the dad dropping him off. They're colleagues, like you said. The dad, our dad of the family, Willie, thinks he's taking this guy home, giving him a lift home from work. And then it turns out that the guy wants to come over and have dinner with them. It's this thing of inviting himself over, of doing the thing. Oh, I guess I could go to my lonely apartment. I guess it's okay that they turned off my power or whatever it is. Like he's just
my
laying
stove doesn't work, and so I can can't make mac and cheese tonight.
Yeah, he's laying on the guilt again and again. First to be invited to dinner, then to stay and hang out with them. They try to get him to leave. I'm going to put my foot down and just tell him it's time to go to sleep, but he can't go to sleep, so they let him stay in the house. Like, it's just, like you said, he's lonely, he won't stop talking, he won't take a hint, and he won't get out of their hair.
Right, and so right before he goes to bed, right, so he convinces them that, don't worry about driving me home, I'm used to it, I'll just, I'll walk, or I'll take the bus, or whatever. And he's like, no, I'll drive you home. And he's like, yeah, it'll just warm me up because my apartment's so cold or something. He has some reason why he can't go home. So right before, when they say, well, why don't you just stay here? We'll move the boy into his sister's room and then you can have his room or whatever. He reveals then that he, thank you for being so nice. You don't have to be so nice. I'm just really lonely. I don't have any friends ever since I'm in the witness, I can't say it, but right. I'm in the witness protection.
The idea is this guy is so loquacious that it's like, that's the joke, is his whole life depends on him keeping this secret, but he can't keep a secret. So yes, he tells them he's in the witness protection program. And is that what ignites Alf's imagination? Because it's a running thing. Alf, he's not allowed to be seen by anyone, obviously. So he stays home and he watches TV all day. So he always has these notions of his, like I said before, his imagination getting the better of him.
Right. And so usually on Alf, when we have a guest stay over or somebody staying overnight, the joke of the show is that they end up seeing Alf and then they have to make up something of he's, our hairy cousin or the dog or whatever. Right. And this is the only episode of Alf where they ever have an overnight guest who doesn't see Alf. So Alf immediately hears this, that, he's been a witness in this case and that's why he's being protected now. And he's like, the mob is coming to get him. So Alf goes out into the backyard and sets all these traps in the backyard to protect the family and protect the house.
Yes, we've got a bunch of references here because Alf immediately says, when they tell him to just go to sleep, he says, what? And wake up with Mr. Ed's head in my bed?
Yep.
So we get our second horse head reference.
Or, penguin head, whatever. Right.
But it's the horse head that he's referencing. And then when he goes out and does this sweep of the yard or whatever to check for criminals, it turns into a Dragnet parody. Because he's talking to the camera. And this is one of those things, if you're under the age of 80, you might not be familiar with this.
But Jay knows because he's an old man.
Because of reruns. Yeah, he says, my name is Alf, I carry a bat.
That's right.
Which is a reference
to carry a badge.
Yeah, my name is Friday, I carry a badge from Dragnet, which I'm connecting the dots right now. Tom Hanks was in the movie parody of Dragnet right around the same time. But anyway, yeah, he sets a trap, like an old-fashioned net trap, like you hunting for bears in the woods or
That's
something.
Right.
And of course, he catches Willie in his trap.
And it's this great physical comedy bit where Willie is legitimately suspended with his arms and legs kind of up in the air in this hammock-looking thing that is a net trap, and he's kicking and pulling and trying to get out of it, and then the neighbor, like Wilson style, sticks his head through the gate and is like, everything okay over here?
This is another perfect Max Wright delivery. He goes, Trevor, what I'm doing is very complicated and requires all of my concentration. If you would like me to explain it, I will do so at a later time. And again, just the way this guy says things is just perfect.
Well, and it's such a stupid scene that I'm like, how are you going to get out of this? Like, what are you going to say? And then he does that. Then he does this whole little delivery that makes Trevor seem like an imbecile, right? Trevor, I'm going to do something very important. He just sounds so serious. And Trevor's like, oh, okay, boss, whatever. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And backs out of the backyard.
Serious and exasperated. This guy makes an art of exasperation. Is just so
We love
perfect.
him so much. And so then Alf lets him down. Of course, he collapses into a pile. I mean, it's like Looney Tunes. He's collapsed into this pile of net and has to kind of dig his way out, and then is yelling at Alf and is like, no more traps. Nobody's coming for him. It's not even like a real organized crime case. Do you remember what the case was? It was something kind of silly. It didn't even seem like it was serious mobster stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember what was the original thing that, got him placed in the witness protection program. But the next big thing that happens is an actual guy, an intruder, comes prowling into the yard.
Yeah, this guy in a gray suit comes over the fence.
We get, again, I love the sitcom action scenes or suspense scenes or whatever, just them trying to do in that little multi-camera setup with their 20-foot set, trying to stage that as in a way that would make you feel like you're watching,
and
a
this
crime
dude
movie.
looks like Ray Liotta, and he falls into a pit in the backyard that Alf has now dug and covered.
Yes, he falls into a pit and I guess just immediately loses consciousness.
Well, he bangs his head on the sewer pipe that is now exposed.
Of course,
Alf is dug so far down.
Yes, this is all described to us. We just see him kind of fall, out of the camera view.
We see him fall into the tiger trap.
Yeah. And so, they've caught this guy. He's unconscious, but, the dad comes out and checks his wallet, his identification, and sees he's an FBI agent. Alf, you've subdued an FBI man or something.
Right. And this is the second episode of Alf that we've watched where FBI has been involved, right? Because the first one, they were coming to investigate Alf, right? And it was the Agency for Alien Activity or something, remember?
Well, because this is, I guess, before the X-Files, but you still had that connotation of if somebody's going to be investigating aliens, I guess it would be the FBI.
It's going to be the Fed. So anyway, they're all freaked out. They're like, Alf, you've got to get out of here. We've got an unconscious Fed in our house. Oh my gosh. And then there's a knock on the door.
Yeah. And it's more FBI agents.
Right. Who immediately recognize Jimbo, who is also now known as Steve Areno.
Yeah.
And they're
they say that's his real name, which I thought that was funny. Just this idea of all right, I got to come clean. I'm not Jimbo. I'm Steve Areno.
Yeah. He's well, call me Steve Areno. And there's this ongoing gag of they call him Jim and he's Jimbo.
Yeah.
And they're I don't want to call you that. And then same thing with Steve Areno. And the FBI agents are I'm not calling you that. And so, but they immediately recognize him as his handlers, right? So they look at the unconscious guy on the couch and they're that's not one of us.
Yes, which, again, I know this isn't impressive, but I spotted this plot twist a mile away. A real FBI guy wouldn't prowl around your house like that.
Well, I don't know.
So, yeah, the guy that, Alf was scolded for knocking out, he was right to knock him out because he was actually a bad guy. And so when the real FBI guys are sort of reprimanding Jimbo for being you can't go around telling everybody who you are.
You're
blowing your cover again. The thing that I found funny, again, not knowing all the ins and outs of how the real mafia works, if there even is such a thing, they go, the Cleveland Syndicate's looking for you.
That's right. That's right. That was the other piece where I was wait a minute, the Cleveland mob?
I'm not sure. I could believe New York, Chicago, LA.
We don't want to run afoul of any really hard Cleveland gangsters. Please don't come for us.
It almost seems like the Alf writers' room forgot that it didn't take place in Jersey or something. And then right before they finished, someone was wait a minute, this takes place in Cincinnati or whatever, in the suburbs of Ohio.
No, I think they were trying to make it as minimally scary as possible.
Sure.
Because this is well after Alf had all of their censorship controversies.
But yeah, so the whole thing is sort of, taken care of.
Yeah, they say, say goodbye to your new friends because you can't, and you have to stop telling people who you are. This is going to be your 5th placement. And so they take him off, and then we have a really fun little moment where the gangster guy starts to wake up and they stand him up and walk him away. We get no encounter, that actor has 0 lines.
Yes.
He was just there to fall in a hole and be escorted off the set.
Basically a featured extra that is also somehow the antagonist of the episode.
Of the entire episode,
but, I just wanted to also ask, because so much of this is Alf overhearing things from the kitchen or popping up in his little hole there. If I were to tell a contractor that I wanted an ALF window in my kitchen, do you think they would know what I mean?
Well, I think what you would be asking for is called a pass-through.
Okay.
Those exist in many, many homes.
Yeah, to me, this is like 100% an ALF thing. This is what you do if someone in your family is a puppet.
You've never lived in a house that had a pass-through and you've never seen them?
I've seen various semi-open kitchens and stuff like that, but that particular thing of having that little open window that's just the right size for a puppet, top of your body.
Or to pass through dishes.
It just struck me as like, boy, it is fortunate that he happened to crash at a family's house that has this perfect kitchen for him to communicate with them.
Yeah, well, and I like that it's got the, kind of louver doors as the little covering to it. So he just like throws them open as soon as he hears people leave the room or a door shut. And then he's like, I'm here and I'm talking. But yeah, I think a lot of homes, though, a lot of people who had those pass-throughs, they have since renovated their house because having that open kitchen is much more like in.
Well, and after ALF, it was just like,
why
the
do
whole
I need
thing
this
jumped
ALF
the
window
shark.
in my house?
Now it's like, great. Everyone's just going to be asking me, where's ALF with your big kitchen window? But anyway, look, tracking the trope, it's the same deal, right? It's giving us some proximity to this seedy criminal underworld or this danger, or, it's giving us a little bit of taste. In this case, it's not even the person's imagination got the best of them. It actually is, improbably enough, a real
an
crime
actual
situation.
Scary moment. Yeah,
but same thing, bringing a little bit of adventure to our mundane lives.
That's right.
All right, moving on to Head of the Class. That was from Run-Ins with the Mafia. We're about to move on to skydiving, but first let's get a few more trivia questions.
All right, here we go. What was the only thing that would kill the cockroach from Melmac?
Okay, this is completely
do you remember this episode?
No, not
okay,
at all.
So the screenshot has in that space behind the couch where they always, they have a trench because, right, Alf is always popping up there. Alf is in front of the couch behind the coffee table, but behind the couch are 6 insect legs pointing upward like the roach is dead.
I would have guessed this was just like a story he told them, like a funny line. Oh, hey, this is how we kill it. Okay, this is the thing that actually happened on the show.
Yeah.
What are the choices?
The choices are spray tan, Kate's perfume, cooking oil spray.
I like the Kate's perfume thing.
All right, let's go with Kate's perfume, and that's correct. Now I want to watch that episode.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
That does sound
I'm not sure
fun.
what trope that fits into exactly, but yeah.
Every time someone sprayed it with bug spray, it grew. Alf lucked out when he killed it with Kate's perfume.
Nice. All right. Yep. Probably a sweeps week storyline.
Very special bug episode.
What else you got?
All right. So where did Alf get the money for the car he bought Lynn? Lynn would be the sister.
Teenage daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. What are the choices?
He put it on Willie's credit card, he borrowed the money from Willie, or he sold the gold from his spaceship.
I mean, the first two are sort of the same thing. I'm going to say he did the credit card.
He put it on Willie's credit card, and that is incorrect. He sold the gold from his spaceship.
Oh, okay.
The car in 1991 or whatever, 87, whenever this episode was $90,000.
All right, so that's like a nice car.
That's a very expensive car.
Yeah.
Even now, that's an expensive car.
Yeah, I mean, Alf, he spares no expense.
Well, he sold the gold. He could buy whatever he wanted. All right, so what musical was Willie going to see when Alf sang, "Hey, Kate, ain't it great? Hey, Willie, don't you look silly?"
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Kiss Me, Kate.
Ooh, that's good. The choices are Cats, West Side Story, Oklahoma.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't remember this storyline, so it could be any of them. But of course, Cats was the most famous musical of the 80s and is a big part of Alf's worldview. So
Yes.
I'm going to say Cats.
That would be my guess as well, and that is correct. Alf thought it was weird to be going to a musical. The actors just break out into song. Willie said, hence the term musical.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of people were perplexed by Cats, even when they were from planet Earth.
Especially the new movie.
All right, so now we're going to listen to our segment from the skydiving episode, right? This is where we had Herman's head. Like you said, he went skydiving to impress his boss. We had Saved by the Bell, the college years.
Oh, yes.
Zach had to go skydiving to prove that he was like a serious person, and Kelly would... It was something about she wouldn't say I love you, and so that prompted him to go skydiving.
And he's like, well, if I'm going to die, it doesn't matter if I
Zach
die.
Morris logic. And then, we had The Neighborhood, the newer show in that one with
that's
Cedric
right.
the Entertainer
and Max
Greenfield.
Yep.
So yes, but this was the first segment of this show. This was Alf doing some skydiving. Yeah, so starting with Alf, we've watched this furry fella a bunch of times now. We watched the pilot for our puppet-based sitcoms episode, and I was just now trying to remember, what was that crazy one with the guy in the witness protection program? Or
it was his colleague, and he was really annoying, but he was really lonely.
Yeah,
it was Run-Ins with the Mob.
Oh, yes, Run-Ins with the Mafia, right. So only the most serious, down-to-earth sitcom tropes apply to Alf, obviously. What can we say? This one starts with the Tanner family celebrating Willie's birthday. Willie's the dad, and we say it every time. This guy is the secret sauce of the show, much more than Alf himself.
Yeah, totally. Max
Wright, the actor that plays the dad, is just so funny. And this first scene where they're doing the birthday thing, he's blowing out the candles or whatever, and he gives each family member, the wife, the teenage daughter, the son, a kiss. And then Alf's like, give me a kiss. And he does it. Like, he gives the puppet a kiss on the cheek. And then he has this adorable, like, bashful little smile for the next, 15 seconds. It's just very, very funny.
And then he picks up his hanky and he daintily wipes his lips.
Yeah. But he's gonna give a speech, which was not normal in my house for in a family dinner with just a nuclear family for your dad to get up and give a speech. But he does, and he says I've got everything I always wanted. I've got a beautiful wife and two lovely kids or whatever, and
an alien.
And an alien, yeah. And so it sort of establishes that he's at this, much like myself, he's at this 45-year midway point in life. He's very happy and content, but it's almost like that's sort of the seeds of his discontent.
Right. He starts to realize that maybe he's a little bit boring. So the next scene is the present exchange, and Alf is like, what do you mean the person whose birthday it is also gets the presents? Which I, immediately resonated with me, because in the Netherlands, if it's your birthday, you take all your friends out to dinner. Like, you give the gift, really. They don't give you, I mean, people can give you presents for your birthday. A lot of times, but when it's a birthday dinner, it's not your friends taking you out. You take your friends out.
I insist on cooking for my friends sometimes on my birthday. Not so much anymore. But one little note here. Let's just start marking the fashions over this lineup, because there's some extreme ones. I don't know if this guy, I'm thinking more about hair in this case.
Yeah.
The mom's hair,
oh my God,
in this show is
standing
truly
straight up
demented. It is I don't know if you noticed in this present exchange scene, I started just laughing at nothing in particular and could not stop. I started focusing on her hair. This poor woman, this is a network sitcom. Her hair is being professionally style.
Yeah, it wouldn't be able to stand up like that if it wasn't.
So the mom, she reminds me of the actress. She was Arnold Schwarzenegger's police partner in Kindergarten Cop, and she went on to play Leslie Knope's mom in
but that's
Parks and Rec.
not her.
No, it's not her, but she's got that look.
She just has short
red hair,
yeah,
like kind of a round face. And so the way I would describe it is like on top, it's like a big poof, like just a big pom-pom in all directions.
So she has bangs, right? And
there
they're
are
pretty,
bangs and there are bangs.
Right. Well, so she's got bangs and they're pretty thick. Like she's got a good deep bang
She's the
going
big
on.
bang.
Right? Yeah, she's got a deep bang happening. And what they did with that bang was the very 80s, early 90s thing that we all did, which is pull it straight up in the air and tease it and then spray it so that it stands there. Well, they just did a really good job and she's got a deep bang. So it's like she's got this giant orange puffball on the top of her head that the ends of the puffball are spiky because they've sprayed it so much. So that's what's going on with her hair.
No, that's not all that's going on. Because that's the thing. That's only the first part. If it was all like that, if she just had like a Joan Jett crazy spiked out thing, then fine. Like a little weird for a suburban mom.
Yeah, it was the front.
It's the top. And then at about like I've got my hand like at the top of my ear, at about that level, it transitions to just being like a normal, like the lady I mentioned, or like Aunt Jackie and Roseanne, or a million other ladies
what I was just
that have short
they
hair.
They took her bangs that would have laid there normally and been a bob, and they spiked those bangs straight up in the air and teased them all out, so it like created all this fuzz around her face, and then spikes above the fuzz, and the rest of her hair they left straight.
It's like my rock star wig, you know, or like David Bowie in Labyrinth.
That rock star wig is the right period of time for this.
But that's the thing. When those guys didn't cut their hair like at their chin, that's what makes it so strange. Partially, it just looks like two completely different haircuts, like photoshopped onto the same person. It is something else.
Anyway, so it was gift time. And so Alf, I guess, goes down to the basement and like grabs a box of something to be like, here's some old junk. Memories are good to have. It's, for a birthday present. Sorry, it's not like I could go out and shop. And so then they start looking through this box of all these old pictures and they're reminiscing. And it turns out that the mom has had this like really awesome life. She's dated some hunks, including Joe Namath.
Yeah. Well, this is really strange. She's had this very eventful love life. The daughter remarks, "Mom, you really dated some hunks." But they name two specific examples. One is like just this guy that
hot guy in their school
that like ended up like they have something. Oh, he ended up doing some such thing. I didn't write it down.
He's like a marine biologist on some island, and they made him the king of that island.
Yeah, right. And then the next one is Joe Namath, and it's just like and I think they have a picture of him, and so it's planting
and her together,
It's planting the seeds of like part of Willie's
hey, how'd you end up with this guy kind of thing.
Well, and just generally his sense of insecurity and his sense of lacking in manhood.
Well, and then in the box they find this old menu from this restaurant that they went on that they found, I guess, that they loved, and that they went on a bunch of early dates to this restaurant. Well, on this menu they had written their like life to-do lists, right?
Their goals.
Exactly. Things that they wanted to accomplish in their life. And hers was like run with the bulls and, a bunch of different like random, very cool things, get published in some, paper or whatever. Yeah. And she had done all of those things. And the kids are like, "Wow, Mom, that's so great." And he's like, "Honey, I'm so proud of you." And then they're like, "Dad, where's your list?" And he finds his list, which is on a different page in the menu. And he's done none of the things. Yeah,
well, he only has two things on his list: build a better mousetrap and complete that skydive.
Yes.
And so, those are perplexing to Alf, to everybody, I guess he explains. And then Alf finds him later on, like up in the middle of the night, trying to build a mousetrap.
Yeah, tinkering with that mousetrap that he's been trying to build for 25 years.
Yeah, and so Alf gives him this pep talk that sort of demoralizes him, where he's like, Willie, you've got nothing to prove. You've got this great life here. It's completely safe. You don't have to worry about anything because your life is so predictable that nothing could ever go wrong. And, and you have nothing to worry about because your life is so safe and boring.
Yeah.
And so that sort of is like the last straw that sends Willie spiraling. He has a dream.
He goes to bed and says to his wife, honey, do you think I'm, predictable and safe? And she's like, absolutely. That's why I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, I married you because you had those qualities.
Right.
And that doesn't make him feel any better. So then he falls asleep and has this dream.
Yeah. The dream is a graduation.
Right.
Right. But it's just a graduation. There's just like an old guy with a mustache.
Well, it's like their college graduation because these are all guys that she had dated in college.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. So there's this guy like officiating it. He kind of looks like Vincent Price, but he's not.
Yeah.
And it's just this way for Willie's psyche to parade in front of him these guys that have like cucked him.
Well,
by
I don't know about that because he was like they came before.
Yeah,
they don't make him a cuck.
No, but they've like outdone him in life, or so he thinks, by being more exciting.
Right, by being the like king of some random island, and Joe Namath, who and so we get pretty great football player.
Yes, in classic sort of late 80s, early 90s sitcom fashion, we get the real Joe Namath in a cameo here.
Yes, this is when he was doing all those commercials,
yeah,
right?
He had a cereal, I think, or maybe he was like the official Wheaties or one of the main guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the main Wheaties guys.
But Willie, again, Max Wright is hilarious when he like pals up to Joe Namath. He's like, oh, Joe, you done awfully well for yourself. He's just like falling all over him. He's just like, oh, you done so good.
Will you sign this for my son?
Yeah. And then what happens?
He said, Joe Namath signs it. Tell your, hi, Brian, which is the son. Tell your mother I said hi.
yeah. Which that's a little aggressive, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so, he wakes up, right, and declares to the wife, I'm going to skydive, right? And then we get, I guess, is this a trope we can track, or is this the only one that does it? The sort of like practice jumping on chairs in the basement.
Yeah, I don't think any of the other ones there definitely was like discussion of how to land in the other ones.
I feel like
this one you're right.
I feel like John Ritter did this in the Fear of Flying episode. He was practiced on chairs or one of the characters did. But I also wanted to mention this takes place, as a lot of these scenes do, in their basement, right? Willie, the dad, he's the science guy. Just continuing from the Student Radio's podcast, the old-timey analog equipment. Like, I just love all these old computer monitors, and it's got like old weather equipment everywhere, just analog gizmos and gadgets and screens and keyboards and stuff all over the place. I really like this set. So he's practicing, and I don't know. It's just sort of like we're sort of on that course. He's trying to
remember that you like tuck and roll or whatever, like land, tuck and roll, so that way you don't break your legs. And that's what he was practicing. And so his son comes out and he's practicing with him. And then at that point, I think somebody realizes like, wait, you're really going to go skydiving? Like, I wasn't even paying attention when you said that. It blew right by me. And he's like, yeah, I've got to complete something on this list. Yeah. And his wife's like, well, do that. That's great if you want to do that, but you don't have to do that to prove anything to anyone. Yeah.
And so let's just track it now. This is, one of the key sort of psychological motives we're going to get for Willie.
Right.
It's all about, what would you say? It's kind of weird because it's like,
I guess a midlife crisis. Yeah. It's like, I didn't accomplish everything I was going to accomplish by this age. I've settled. I'm boring. I don't have anything ahead of me.
We didn't really mention his goal was to complete that skydive because
Right, 'cause he had
tried
chickened
and
out.
failed.
Yeah, he
he
had
went
chickened out.
on this trip with 4 other people and didn't go.
Right.
So that's what makes it almost like a little bit of a mixed metaphor, because part of it is just like following through and finishing the thing that I said I was going to do and never did.
Right.
And part of it is being as interesting as Joe Namath. You know?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, those are
Like,
the two.
I'm never going to be as interesting as Joe Namath, but at least I can do the goals I set out for myself.
Yeah, because I guess the way he sees himself now is he's a quitter and he's boring.
Right.
And just,
or just that he never accomplished his goals.
Yeah. And, everyone is trying to point out, like, but what if your goals were, like, to have a family and a nice house and all that? And, yeah, he's not having it. So he does the skydiving by himself. Not by himself, but not with any of the other characters.
They only put
show.
him on the plane.
Yeah. So we should mention this. I feel like only one of the shows, I think, gets right this legal thing that any novice skydiver has to be attached to another skydiver. Right. So that's just something that all of these are sort of, assuming that you don't know, and they probably don't know either, that you can't just go up as some middle-aged guy and be like, I'd like a parachute.
I'd like to
and they
jump out of a
push
plane,
you off
please.
a plane.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I feel like we're going to have different approaches to the way you film skydiving on a sitcom, but to an extent, I think all 4 of these shows have a lot in common about the way they do it. I feel like they all get a real plane and either bring a big chunk of a real small airplane to a set or bring cameras to a real airplane. I don't think, except for one very notable exception, I don't think they're ever in the sky. But I think that basically all of these, starting with ALF, are being filmed by taking their video cameras to an actual airplane and filming inside them, just stationary, obviously, and faking the noise outside, because you don't like, there's an authenticity to these little planes. They don't feel like the planes in the Fear of Flying episode or the airports in the various episodes that take place in airports. Like, they don't feel like a sitcom set version. They all feel like planes.
Cramped. Yeah, they absolutely feel
and
cramped.
And they've just got the real accoutrement. Like, I don't know. They just feel real.
Well, I think probably what's more likely is that they have those plane sets, right? Where it's like just part of the plane with the open door, and that is like a little set that they just have.
Yeah, I think it might. Yeah, I think that's
because that way they could film it from one side or the other, from either the front of the plane or the back of the plane, but the tube in the middle, no matter where the camera is, so which would mean that there would be no tail and no front.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like they all have that in common, and then they maybe take different approaches to how they depict what happens after you jump out of the airplane. But we're going to get the definite subtrope of the person who has resolved to go skydiving, questioning their fortitude.
Right. At the last minute, like, oh, nope, can't do it, not going to do it, can't do it.
Yeah. Now, in this case, like I said, there's no other ALF characters. It's just Willie and this instructor guy.
Right.
And this is, I feel like, another definite subtrope is the person deciding that they're not going to go and then accidentally jumping or getting pushed or something.
Oh, yeah, that's 100% a thing that happens in many of these episodes.
So in this one, the joke is just like he's hemming and hawing.
I'm not going to do it.
I don't want to plummet. And the guy can't hear him. And he goes, what? And then he just kind of takes a second and then just basically says, like, screw it.
He's like, oh, what the hell? And just jumps out because the other, like, 2 or 3 guys that are on the plane jump before him. And he's like, whatever. Yeah. And he just goes.
So this is really probably the most straightforward of all of the sort of teeter-tottering and soul-searching and stuff, where he's just like, I'm scared, I don't want to, well, okay, I will. And then he goes, and he hops out. And yeah, the studio audience applauds the B-roll that they cut to. That's how they do it in this show.
Yeah, and they applaud just him jumping in general.
Willie comes home with a certificate.
Yes.
to validate his skydiving
to put in the
success.
memory box of all his wife's ex-hotties.
Yeah. And so that's it, like mission accomplished. It's funny that this one, you would think the sort of family sitcom lesson would be like, at the end of the day, you don't need to jump out of an airplane.
Does Alf ever teach a lesson? I mean, maybe in that crazy Christmas special.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Other than that.
Yeah, no, it's funny. They do just his whole journey, the dad of I'm intimidated because my wife dated Joe Namath. And
Even though I've known that for years.
Yeah, I had these silly goals on a menu that I didn't fulfill. Like you would think the point would be like, oh, get over it, buddy. Like they're telling him at the beginning, like you have a beautiful wife with a crazy haircut and your kids are in this house. Like, don't worry about it. But no, the moral seems to be sometimes you need to prove yourself by skydiving.
Take a few risks. No big deal.
Okay, that was our ALF talk from our skydiving episode. We're going to finish with our earthquakes segment, but first let's finish this trivia quiz.
And that earthquakes episode, I think, chef's kiss. It was ALF was very funny in this earthquake episode.
Yeah, he went through a whole sort of spectrum of emotions.
Yeah, definitely laying the seed for later. I don't know if it was that season or the next season when they did the very special Christmas episode.
Oh God!
And ALF deals with a girl who has a little girl who has cancer.
Yeah, that was a whole different tone.
And it's not just an episode. It was like a little movie.
Yeah,
it was like an hour and a half long special episode.
Anyway.
All right, here we go. What is Alf's catchphrase?
His catchphrase? I feel like, what did he had something, it was like...
When he says something funny, what does he say after it?
Oh, yeah, he would just go, ha!
Oh, one more thing after that.
I kill me.
He says, I kill me. That's right.
That's right.
The other answers are, how's it going? And how you doing?
Yeah, we kept them nice and simple in the 80s.
Yes, exactly.
How you doing?
And no fun fact here, just an explanation. Every time he made himself laugh, that's what he said.
Yeah.
All right. What did Alf make for Lynn when he had a crush on her? Other than a car, apparently. Yeah,
this sounds like a problematic storyline for various reasons. You're going to have to give me the choices.
Okay, a rock video, dinner, a poem.
Okay. Just the phrase make makes me think it's not a poem.
Yes.
I'm going to say dinner.
Oh, dinner. I would have said rock video. And rock video is correct. He says, I may be an unknown from the Twilight Zone, but you're the one who's out of this world. You're the one who's out of this world, sweet baby. You're the one who's out of this world. I'm spinning in an orbit I ain't never been in, because you're the one who's out of this world.
What is happening?
Is the song.
Okay. All right. This isn't something that Alf says, because again, I would have issue with Alf knowing about the Twilight Zone.
Well, he did, because he made this was the song that he wrote and made a video for, and it's him singing it. Another episode that I would really like to watch.
It's funny when you gave that as one of the choices. I didn't. That makes more sense. I took it as he made a video for her. Of her.
No,
like as though she
video.
was an aspiring musician.
No.
He's like, I'll make a video for you. Okay, this makes more sense. He makes a video
like
of himself.
It's like a mixtape of a song, of songs.
Her.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I get it now. All right, what else?
I'm really digging this song because you're the one, baby, who's out of this world.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. In the Christmas special, Alf was stuck in an elevator with a woman who was in labor.
Yeah.
Multiple tropes here.
Definitely.
What did she name her daughter?
Is Gordon one of the choices?
It is not. The choices are Lauren, Kelly, and Tiffany.
I cannot think offhand of any connection to the Alphaverse for any of those names. I'll say Tiffany.
And I think you're right. Tiffany was the girl who died, who had cancer in that episode, right? And boom, nailed it, it says. Alf was the one to suggest Tiffany. He was thinking of the young girl he had befriended who was dying.
Yeah. Yep. Is that the last one? They leave you on the death one?
No, there is one more. This is the last one. What did Alf say about the color beige when Willie was painting?
I need the choices.
Oh, hey, here you go. Beige, a commitment to color. Beige, how boring. beige. How pretty.
I think I'm just going to go with the more straightforward one and say how boring.
Oh, yeah? Okay, let's see. Oh, beige, a commitment to color. When Kate was getting together with her college roommates, Alf wrote a note to them on the wall. Willie had to paint over it with beige to match the rest of their house.
Yeah, I mean,
very 90s.
We're on record that in the 80s, there's way too much beige in the sitcom sets. Every house was that beige, mauvish sort of bland color.
Yes.
All right.
It looks like there's one more. Would you like the last question?
Sure.
Here we go. In which episode does Willie say, "Oh, Alf, I have a package and a lecture for you"?
I have a package and a lecture for you. In which episode?
Oh my goodness, and the screenshot is terrifying. There is apparently an episode where Alf is gifted a puppet.
Oh my.
So you've got a puppet getting a puppet, and it's one of those ventriloquist dummy type puppets that has the lines by where the mouth opens for when they talk. It looks super creepy. It's got like sleepy lidded eyes.
Yeah. I don't know. What?
All right. It says, I just gave it away by telling you what the picture was. The last episode, the Christmas one, TOW, Alf gets Paul the dummy. Paul, as in Paul Fusco, the
His
guy
voice.
who voices him.
Okay, yes.
That was very meta.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to listen to our last Alf segment, which is from our Earthquakes podcast. This is the one where we covered Sanford and Son going to Vegas to flee earthquakes. We covered Gimme a Break and her adventures with the deaf woman in the basement of the county center or whatever. We had Modern Family doing the earthquake thing, and this is our Alf discussion.
There you go. And we'll be back afterwards with Jay's results.
Moving on to Alf.
Season 3, episode 25, Shake, Rattle, and Roll.
Yeah, so we talked about the very first Alf when we did our puppet-based sitcoms podcast. We talked about Alf's run-in with the Mafia.
Yep.
This time we're only in season 3 of Alf, but already I feel like things are looking different than in the past. Am I remembering this wrong? Wasn't it the mom from Alf that I called out had the worst hair of any person ever in a sitcom? Wasn't she the one that had the bangs in the front and then the inexplicably long hair in the back? Am I completely misremembering this? Because everyone looks kind of normal-ish in this one.
So I think I remember what you're talking about. In season 1, okay, so what we talked about this when you called it out. What my friends and I called mall hair.
Yeah.
Right? Which was when we were in elementary school, in the 80s, all the teenagers at the mall had this almost mullet styled hair, because you would tease your bangs up really big and puffy.
Yeah.
And then you would tease out the sides of your head.
Yeah.
And then the back would kind of hang flat. And the mom had sort of spiky teased bangs, but she didn't tease out the sides. She just left everything else straight.
Yes.
And now both she and the older daughter have more curls in their teased out bangs.
Whatever it is, I just had this vague memory, a nightmare of years gone by of this woman's hair. And when the episode starts, I'm she looks normal. She looks like a lady in the 80s with kind of short hair. So I just feel like everyone kind of cleaned up their act. The boy has a different color hair, I think. He was a little redhead in the early seasons. And maybe it's just his aging, I think. His hair got more brown and dark. Everybody looked a little bit revamped to me in this, except, of course, for Willie. Good old Willie. Same
Alf.
guy
Look at
he
the
ever
same.
was. Yes. And that, of course, is the secret sauce of the show. We say it every time. We love Willie, that actor that I mistakenly said was a crackhead and died in the gutter. Turned out that was all weird early 2000s pre-internet, urban legend. But anyway, yes, Alf, this is the earthquake episode. This is going to be all about they had an earthquake, just like all the others. It happens at the very beginning. The family comes down. They're looking for Alf. Where is he? Where is he? Willie goes, it's his first quake. Poor little fella. He's probably scared to death.
I don't know why he sounds like Jimmy Stewart.
Because he does. That's how the guy talks. It's so cute because Willie is always so exasperated by Alf. So to start out with this thing, he's talking about him like he's a little puppy dog that they can't
which
find.
is how he talks about him in every moment that he's not exasperated.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's so funny. It's either one or the other. And the minute Alf walks into the scene, Willie is immediately exasperated.
Yeah, well, it's because Willie, it was his idea. You know, he coined the phrase Alf, right? Remember in the first episode, he just tossed that off like everyone knew what an Alf was.
Wait. So speaking of words like that, earthquake is one of those words I don't think about being Earth specific until I realize that it's only an earthquake on Earth.
Right. It would be a Melmac quake somewhere else. Yeah. Well, let's get to that. This is, I'm sure, same issue I raise every time with Alf, but exemplar par excellence right here when Alf goes, well, what was that? What happened? What's an earthquake, right? Does not know what an earthquake is. Willie proceeds to explain in scientific terms. He explains about the tectonic plates and pressure under the earth.
He gets about like 3 sentences
and
in.
Then Alf goes, oh, gee, thanks a lot, Mr. Wizard. And that right there is the contradiction of Alf. He knows about Mr. Wizard.
Right.
He knows about this, TV personality on Nickelodeon, but he doesn't know what an earthquake is. And that's always happening. Alf will be like, wait, a tree? What's that? And then he'll go like, gee, now I know how Walter Mondale must have felt.
Right.
Like, making these weird references to like specific things and then also not being aware of the most basic, like, building blocks of life. But yeah, Alf has never experienced an earthquake, has never even heard of it. Just like, some of our other characters, this is going to lead to a lot of fear, trepidation.
And soul searching.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple new characters come in to talk about your third season kind of shake-em-ups.
Yeah, who the heck is this kid? This neighbor nephew, right?
This is Poochie from The Simpsons all over again.
So apparently this is this kid's last episode as well. Like, he's the neighbors, the like nosy neighbor lady who we've met before.
Yes, Jerry Seinfeld's mom.
Yes, he's her nephew. And then they said, oh, are you, hasn't school started or are you just here for the summer? And he was like, yeah. And like doesn't acknowledge any of the questions that the cast has for him about why he's there. But yet he is allowed to see Alf. And like, I panicked. Yeah. Alf like walked into the kitchen and this kid's standing there. And I'm like, when are they going to cut?
Drop to the casserole dish.
Right? Like, when are they going to cut to this kid freaking out? Well, apparently in this season, he already is in on it.
He's in on it. I get that his grandma or whatever, the parents are not in on it. This is hilarious to me. This is just like Justin Whalen on Charles in Charge.
Oh, yeah. Or any episode. Or freaking Charles himself from Happy Days.
Yeah, but that at least was a character that was around for a while. This specific thing of let's throw in a spunky Italian neighbor kid who's
from New York.
And is somebody's nephew. It's always the neighbor's nephew who's here because he got in trouble or whatever.
And then he comes in talking like a newsie. He's like, hey, yo, when are you going to give me some of that, Alf?
Yeah.
Like,
and then
what is happening?
They decide 2 weeks later, never mind, we don't need him. And it's just like Poochie went back to his home planet, right? The kid went back to school, don't need him anymore. So yeah, this little Italian kid is just like, hey, yo, whoa, what happened here? I don't think he really has much to do with anything. I just had to call that out, that on season 3 already, we're pulling out all the stops of like, I think we need like a Vinny Del Pino-esque neighbor kid to come in and just like shake things up. Our 2 kids in the family aren't enough.
They're not enough.
They're not
They're
like
boring.
spunky enough.
Right. We need an in-between age kid who can say inappropriate things to the older teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And who can, spar with Alf a little bit more than Brian can because he's young.
Yeah, exactly. The funniest part of the episode, I think, is Trevor, who is the the man neighbor, Jerry Seinfeld's mom's husband, right? He's outside. He's all kind of shaken up. Willie's like, come on in. And he feels the door frame of their house and he goes, is this structural? And then a few minutes later, when they've gotten rid of the neighbors and Alf is asking the parents all these questions, he's like, so you're saying this was actually not really a bad earthquake? They can be worse than this? And the mother's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's rare, but earthquakes can actually be a lot worse than this. And Alf starts feeling the frame of his old familiar, kitchen pass-through window thing and goes, is this thing structural?
Immediately just like taking advice from the other scared guy. The thing that I liked about this episode, though, was that they decided, because this is how Willie is, that we should use this experience of this, Alf, this being an unknown thing to Alf as a learning experience. So they, Willie, not only does he try to explain how earthquakes happen, but then he's like, we don't have to be worried about them because we are prepared. And they go out to the garage and they start taking inventory of all of their hurricane preparedness. You know where I come from. All of their earthquake preparedness supplies that they have. Well, it turns out Alf has eaten all of their foodstuffs. Yeah. And he's like, a 3-week supply. It only took me an hour and a half.
Yeah, he goes, he orders $476 versus worth of jugs of water.
Right, like 3 times the amount of water that they say they need. They decided they needed to have like 35 gallons of water.
Yeah, so the guy shows up, the delivery guy, and he's like, is there a Gordon Shumway here? Because that's Alf's
his name.
Alias. Or rather, Alf is his alias. His real name is Gordon Shumway. And yeah, there's a point when, like, Alf is trying to justify all this to Willie and the mom, I forget her name, and they're just, like, glaring at him. He goes, I know that look. I find it unsettling. I love the Alf dialogue. He nails his bed down, or he nails himself to the bed. He does some sort of construction.
Yeah, he's trying to nail his bed to the ground.
Because he doesn't want to slide down the stairs.
Right, he doesn't want his bed to like shake so much it gets over to the stairwell and falls down the stairs. And he's, Willie's trying to tell him that's not going to keep you safe. Like, the bed's just going to continue to shake.
Alf goes, I could put you in one of these babies for $99.99.
Right, and then don't they have an aftershock? And that's how he realizes that the nailing down the bed isn't going to work.
Yeah, does this one have more than one earthquake? I don't remember.
There was something that made him realize that nailing down the bed wasn't going to work, and I don't remember if it was another aftershock or not.
This is definitely, our least special effects driven episode.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't get a lot of
That's because that set, we've talked about how what a death trap that set was because of all the trenches. Be able to interact in a way, it's not like the Muppets set where everything can be up high and you just know you're going to shoot regular people from like chest up, right? But this set is like they're trying to have a normal sitcom set, and they had all of these trenches, that people could fall into and trip over.
You don't want to start adding on rigging the cabinet to explode and stuff. So this leads to Alf's very sort of sitcom-y. He says straight up, I have a new philosophy. Every breath I draw could be my last. So eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may croak, right? He's having just this,
and he's walking around the house being like, sorry, Brian, I'm going to go savor your parents for a little while.
Yes, he goes, we need to savor everything.
Right. And so it is a good philosophy. So Willie kind of lets it go for a little while until he realizes that the way that Alf is kind of taking this idea of, living life to its fullest and really, savoring every moment is actually out of fear, right? Yeah. It's one of those things like, oh, I don't really believe in God, but I go to church because, well, you never know, kind of a thing. And so Willie has to have a talk with him about like, hey, your philosophy isn't wrong. You're taking it to an extreme where it's actually hurting you and scaring other people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that it sort of contaminates Brian, the boy. They find him hiding under the bed, and he goes...
with a helmet on, because he's worried that, like, at every turn...
He's scared, yeah. You know, Alf had explained, well, in Hawaii, there are volcanoes. In Florida, there's old age, right? That was a funny joke. He says, her Earth is hazardous to your health. There's just disaster everywhere. So, yeah, Brian is hiding under the bed. When the parents find him, he goes, this is where I live now, right? So we've got a very, you know, sort of Full House-esque, like, all right, let's all sit down, let's talk about this. And yeah, this is, you know, it's cheesy and sitcom-y, but they do get at the very real thing of, you know, Willie explains, like, look, you are right. We can't say for sure that this stuff won't happen. We can be almost sure. And that's like, you just have to kind of find a way to live with that. And that is the truth about existence. Like, we can't eliminate risk. It simply is more healthy for us to somehow, you know, accept it.
Right, for sure. And I think what's interesting about it is that they do a really good job in this episode with making that conversation not feel Full Housey and not feel like really simplified, really for kids. The writing in this, and also the guy who plays Willie, his acting elevates it, which is something I never thought I would say about Alf, that it's elevated in a way, but they do. They take this life lesson and they make it doesn't feel cheesy, even though it 100% is cheesy. Yeah. It feels like an actual real life lesson that you can learn from, kids and adults. Yeah. When Willie, he explains catastrophic expectations, he kind of outlines this new view on life, and Alf goes, does this leave room for savoring? You know, and so, yeah. And he's funny. Like, you absolutely can savor, but you shouldn't be savoring because you're terrified that bad things should happen. You should savor because it is the point of life to live it to its fullest. Yeah. And so in a way, this, yes, very sitcom-y, but this is closest to the sort of platonic form of what I would think one of these earthquake sitcoms would be. It's like, it shakes you up literally, and like, you know, just sort of dealing with, like, what can I do to possibly keep myself safe from this thing that could strike at any moment, and then sort of gradually coming back to earth and, you know. Literally coming back to earth. All right, so that's it. That was the last of our ALF Talks, which was our Earthquakes episode. How did we do on the quiz? You got 12 out of 16. Way to go. Yeah, I mean, not bad. That's acceptable, not bad. I guess. Yeah, it's acceptable. Does it give us a little blurb or something? It says, you are a true blue ALF fan. You aren't just some ALF newbie. You've clearly been watching the show since its humble beginnings. This was clearly written by AI. You've witnessed ALF grew to become one of the best TV shows of our time. Nope, sorry, one of the best TV show of our time. You are a true ALF expert. Yeah, there you have it. Look, any final thoughts? These were all very fun to me. These podcasts, like episodes. We said, all of those sort of more silly, outlandish tropes. You can always count on Alf to bring it. Absolutely. And now, because of this quiz, I'm excited to see a giant dead cockroach and a meta puppet episode. So we're going to have to put it on the list. Seek out those specific puppets on puppets happenings. All right. We will return to our normally scheduled programming next week on the Sitcom Study. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.